be alive in this land of ours. Good to drive in this land of ours.
Hello, Canada hockey fans in the United States.
The Hockey Time Machine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hockey Time Machine. I'm Glenn Dreyfus. Brain teaser. What do the Cleveland Barons, New Jersey Devils, and Tampa Bay Lightning have in common? The answer is if you turned on the radio to listen to the first game in franchise history for each of those teams, you would have heard the same voice, the voice of Larry Hirsch. Early in the 83-84 season, Larry, Edmonton wallops the Devils 13-4. I know you don't want to look, but this is how it looked at the end of the broadcast. So see, it really happened. What I'd like you to recall for us, obviously, there's the famous Wayne Gretzky quote. He says that the Devils, largely because Ron Lowe, one of the Devils' goaltenders, had to suffer through 8 of the goals against, and he had played for the Oilers, and so Gretzky calls the Devils a Mickey Mouse organization. What I want you to recall for us is Wayne's first visit to the Meadowlands after that. It was January 15th, 1984.
Background. Devils were on a whatever losing streak. They get clobbered in Calgary. We play the next night on a back-to-back in Edmonton with Gretzky and his friends. We're on a losing streak. I show up for the morning skate because I got to get some interviews. There was only, on an optional practice, three players on the ice for the Devils practicing. And I'm saying to myself, uh-oh, this doesn't look good, unless the players are so confident that they just would say, let's get the rest and let's play the game. That night, Devils score the first 2 goals. I said, wait a minute, 2-0. Hey, let's get going. 9 goals later, and eventually you saw the score, 13-4, and poor Ron Lowe. Oh my God. That's the homecoming I don't want to go to. And so Gretzky makes his Mickey Mouse statement. So I go back, and I think that was I think in January. We were playing the Edmonton Oilers at the end of February. I went into my marketing department, and I said, I don't know if you can do this or not, but get in touch with Disney. Let's have a Mickey Mouse night at the Meadowlands. Let's have balloons. Let's have Mickey Mouse songs. Let's have everybody come to the game and welcome 99. And that's what happened. Eventually. It was hard to do because you're trying to be professional with an organization. Why do you make fun of the game? Hey, come on. We just got walloped in Edmonton. Nick called the Mickey Mouse organization. Right after that, John McMullen fired the whole hockey staff. We got Tommy McVie as a coach. Max McNabb, may he rest in peace, as the general manager, and all sorts of stuff happened. So come that game, I said, let's do that. And they said, well, okay. Well, they did it. I saw it. You showed a picture of a youngster. There it is. I mean, you saw all the signs. And Gretzky loved it. The game was a fabulous game that night. It was 5-4. Edmonton won. But what a night. What a party. And what a way to say, Wayne, we're the Devils. We're not a Mickey Mouse organization. And we're going to show you why. Well, several years later, they won their Stanley Cups and so on and so forth. But I was so proud of the fans that night. They got into it. They regardless of the record of the team and the teams and everything, what a wonderful night at the Meadowlands. I'll never forget that night amongst many nights, but that was great. And Wayne Gretzky, by the way, the All-Star game was held at the Meadowlands. Gretzky came up to me and he said, "I heard about that, about the Devils doing that." And I said, "Yeah, well, yeah, we want to have fun. I hope you weren't embarrassed." Or he said, "No, Larry." He said, "I'm proud of that. That's what that team needed." And they played a great game that night, and it was a marvelous night. You see, we turned tragedy or a bad thing into a positive thing, and
Well,
bingo,
it
there
was
it was.
brilliant because instead of ignoring it or getting offended, you lean into it and then everybody wins.
Yeah, except for poor little me and my technician in Edmonton that had to sit through that. You know, I mean, and you want to know what? This I swear to God, like I told you, I had call-ins, in between periods for called Dial the Devils,
Yeah.
and I just one night the Devils were playing so bad on the island, so bad. It was 4-0, but it was a bad 4-0. Nothing going on. So at the end of the second intermission, I said, if there are any fans out there that are still listening to me, call in and tell me what you think, because I'm telling you, this is El Stinko tonight. All right, give me some help. So I went on and started doing the third period, Glenn, and all of a sudden my technician back at the station says to me, "Larry, we got a problem." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "What are we going to do with all these phone calls?" So I had people listening to me. And I actually, something, Glenn, during the third period, I actually took one call.
Oh, good for you. Wow.
Of course, I thought I was going to get fired the next day, but what the heck? I wanted to prove a point.
Speaking of games that started out stinko, November 2nd, 1985 at the Meadowlands. The Devils go down to the Rangers 4-0, but they come back to win the game in overtime. Larry, let's let everybody listen to how that sounded.
Brisbane, right wing of the slot. Right point driver, top of the slot. Heaver off the draw. Shot behind the net. Busted first one there. Jonathan in front of McDavid. Gun out. Drive it up. Score! Score! The Devils win it. The Devils win it. The Devils win it. The Devils win it in overtime. How about it, folks? How about it? How about it?
Yes,
How about it?
I'll have to admit to that. Well, I know what you know, so I will tell your listeners and viewers what they may not know. You saw the headlines there and everything like that. So the Devils, you're right. They're losing 4-0. Third period, 2 quick goals by the Devils, 4-2. Now I'm starting to get back my audience, Okay, here we go. We just need one more goal. Just the Devils need one more goal, and then we could pull the goaltender, this type of thing. About 8 minutes to go. Referee calls a penalty on the Devils. Power play goal, 5-2. The air comes out of the balloon. About 2.5 minutes later, Devils score a goal, 5-3. Now I'm back on we'd only need one more, and then we could pull Chico, And sure enough, about 40 seconds to go in overtime, I'm rocking and rolling. We pulled the goaltender, and that was the call. Now, what happened on that call was just bedlam at the Meadowlands, okay? It was the 7th game of a Stanley Cup winner. It was unbelievable because of the rivalry and all of that. Overtime, Rangers come. Now, in that game, Roger Nielsen, I think, was the coach of the Rangers at that time. I'm not sure. But he pulls Van Beesbrook. He pulls him for overtime, puts in the backup goaltender. Now I'm saying to myself, they got a backup goaltender, been sitting for 3 hours. I don't care. Spit the puck at them, take a bat and knock it at them, anything. Just get it to the net. All right. Sure enough, the puck is dropped. Rangers go down. They put like Chico to, made unbelievable saves. Okay. They turn around, go right back up the ice. They set it up as I set it up. And when the goal was scored, now you heard how about it and how about. Well, folks, when I called the game-winning goal, as soon as I did that, I don't know how to this day, I don't know why, but I did it. I got up onto the table where I was broadcasting from, and I had my arms spread out like this and my fist pointing out like that. How about it? How about? And my technician grabs me by the leg, and I look down, and that was the first time. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. I realized where I was, and I went, "Oh my God!" And I sat down. Now the epilogue to that story is I go home that night, watch the late news, the 11 o'clock news, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh God, I'm a joke. I'm a joke. This is ridiculous. I'm going to get fired." And so to back that up, I said, "Okay, honey, let's just relax." We go home, watch the 11 o'clock news. Warner Wolf, who was the number one sportscaster in New York, had a segment where he'd go, "Let's go to the videotape." And he would show that Devils game. And he showed the game-winning goal. And when that happened, he said, "Look at the fans at the Meadowlands. They're going crazy, blah, 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 blah." And he says, "But if you think that's something, take a look at the Devils announcer." And they had me stretched arm on the 11 o'clock news, all of New York and Metro to see me. And all I did the next day was stay by the phone because I was expecting to be fired. But just the opposite happened. And that's how the Larry Hirsch story happened in New Jersey. It went on from there. I'm a lucky guy. I'm a lucky guy for what I did on the air. Nothing bad. You see, that's the whole thing. It was nothing bad. It's all about what hockey's all about. What happens when a goal is scored? They go crazy. I got to make you feel like, Glenn, you're in row A, seat 1.
Not only wasn't it bad, it wasn't bad. Former Devils goalie, longtime broadcaster Chico Hirsch said this of you, quote, "He was bigger and better than the team on the ice." And the engineer you mentioned, Carl Infantino, added, "Larry was a showman. He made people enjoy the game." What do those comments mean to you?
With all due respect to some of my favorite announcers like Danny Gallivan, Foster Hewitt, Jiggs McDonald in New York, Bob Miller, who did the Kings game for such a long time, many more. What that meant to me was nobody else is foolish enough to do this on the air. But I made a promise to John McMullen. I said, I'm going to galvanize these fans. I'm going to make them loyal. They're going to buy tickets, but you got to be loyal and that way back to them in as professional way that I possibly could, especially when they wore the Gucci outfits with the green, the red, and the white. We were popular at Christmas time, by the way. But anyway, I made that promise to him. If you don't like me, kick me out. And that started that relationship. So what that signified to me, not that I ever did that again, which I didn't, but what that signified to me is that I arrived. It's my style. It's my brand. It's a combination of broadcasting the Canadian way and the American way. Tell exactly where the puck is and who's got it. Add the excitement to it and build that crescendo up. And that's what I did for all of my life. So like a Broadway show, when you go to New York and you put that best foot forward, you want it to be your step, not my step. I told you at the beginning of this show, Glenn, this falls under that heading. Don't try this at home. But that's what hockey did to me. And I just took it from a fan point of view and brought it up to the broadcast booth. And meshed it, worked on it, and voila. You know, I did it
one
everywhere I went.
one of our HTM pals is the great hockey broadcaster Brian McFarland. And you, while you were in Jersey, once co-hosted a dinner with him, right? So, what were
That
the ingredients of that?
Of course, I admired Brian whenever I saw it. Whenever I went up to Canada, he was, one of the best broadcasters, sports broadcasters up there. So certainly he had my admiration and respect. But that happened at the All-Star game, which was in New Jersey, 84, 85, I don't recall. And I was honored, picked by my organization and the NHL to host the All-Star dinner the night before the All-Star game. I did the All-Star game, by the way, the next night, not only locally, but also on Armed Forces Radio. So it was heard all around the world. I had a guy come up to me a couple of months later and say, sir, my name is so-and-so, and I'm from England, and I listened to you at 3:00 in the morning. I was blown away by that. But Brian, when I accepted to do, help with the hosting, so on one end I had my podium, on the other end they had the Canadian podium, and that was Brian McFarland. And I went up to him. I just told him how much I respected him and admired him. I said it to the audience that night that I was thrilled to be sharing this podium with Brian McFarland. And it's the respect I have for people in our business. No matter whether they don't like me, they like me, whatever, I respect it because I know what it takes to get there. And so for that fact, especially in Canada, you have to give him the props that I gave him that night. That was wonderful. That was really wonderful. Really wonderful. Same. I felt the same when I met Foster Hewitt. I mean, up in the gondola, and here I am in this cramped booth up there, and he's next door, and I'm saying to myself, "That's Foster Hewitt next door."
Yeah.
I remember that. Same with Danny Gallivan in Montreal. Danny Gallivan, Danny, Mr. Gallivan, not Danny, Mr. Gallivan. You are the best. I mean, you have to. Same with Jigs McDonald. Same with everybody in this great game. You got to give them. You got to give it to them. And these guys brought pleasure and entertainment and excitement to so many people across North America. They have my undying respect.
You mentioned the gondola, and we had talked earlier that we were going to get back to finding out what some of your favorite arenas to broadcast from were. So, was Toronto one of those, and what were some of the others?
Well, I really love the Canadian broadcast booth, the old ones, not the ones that you have now. In Toronto, and you're looking at it now, when you see that wonderful save, you see our location would be equal to being right above them. It's almost like you could reach out and touch these players. To get to that broadcast booth was hellacious. And I think that the old owner, Harold Ballard, made it that way for us broadcasters because you had to go on this cage platform that went out to the middle of the arena over the ice. And getting there, you just had to up your insurance to make sure you got there right. Once you get there, and here I am in the famous gondola where I heard so many great broadcasts, and my booth was as big as maybe a little closet, but next to me was Foster Hewitt, and the view from that location was unbelievable. I was so sad when they took that away and put it on in the old Maple Leaf Gardens on the other side in the press area. The same thing in Winnipeg. The same thing in Montreal. Montreal was great. I mean, Montreal was just spectacular. Hey, Glenn, you're a hockey fan. I know all your people out there are big hockey fans. I got in to see the Montreal dressing room. I got to interview Jean Beliveau one night. That was ridiculous. I almost went into the third period saying, the hell with the third period. Let me keep talking with John Beliveau. But those kind of arenas were very special to me. And to go in it, you felt the history. You felt the teams of the past. You walk into Maple Leaf Gardens and you go before the dressing rooms and you see the old, what were Zamboni machines, not Zamboni, they were steel barrels filled with water, and they would roll it over the ice to clean the ice in between periods. They had that there, and all the great Maple Leaf players, all the great Canadian players, and the broadcast location in those arenas were spectacular, absolutely spectacular, because they were close. And you know why they were close? This is only my opinion. It was close to the action because the broadcaster had to, on radio, tell the people where, how, and when, and who. And you were able to get that in Montreal. In Toronto, my God, I felt like I could reach out and touch Borja Salmi. It was great. I could care less about the size of the broadcast booth. I was in history.
What you mentioned was something that you and your colleagues had an advantage over today's broadcasters when they don't want to give up $150 a seat in the prime locations. And now the radio and TV guys are 4 miles from the ice.
4 miles from the ice. Lou Lamorella moved the press box after I left all the way up to the top of the Meadowlands. Now, I got out there to do a game for the Lightning. I swore I had to get those flashlights because I was in the guide path of the planes coming into Newark Airport. That's how far we were. I mean, yeah, I don't, sell the tickets and everything like that. I understand. Okay. But man, I got eye surgery after that because I had to see what I was seeing, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I was doing a hockey game. So put me back, 10 blocks from the arena or put me right there. I'm going to give you my best shake.
When you were hired in Tampa in 1992, home games the first year were played at the fairgrounds. How unusual was that setup?
Picture this. In your high school days, you would go to a basketball game in your high school gymnasium. The bleachers on both sides and the crowd and the clock. And there's a picture of it. 10,000 people. And here's a little secret for you. Okay. I hope I don't get in trouble, but that's been the path of my life anyway. When Phil showed this arena to the NHL, when they were showing where they would play the first year, that arena was not to specifications. Okay. But somehow, some way, they made it that way. And where you see that crowd there. Now there's 10,000 people there. Okay. It sounded like 50,000 people. And when we played there in that first year, some of the highlights, how about players that, you know how they put on their undergarment and everything like that to get ready and tape their sticks. Okay. Well, we had players going out to a pond outside this arena with their sticks going fishing. I mean, it was in the middle of a beautiful area, great weather, great sunshines. The locker rooms were as big as a mouse hole. So the players ended up taping their sticks and dressing outside. And I'll never forget Dave Tiger Williams going out there with that hockey stick and going fishing in the pond that was outside. That was one of the things. Here's another thing. When we started doing the broadcast in Tampa, after the first preseason game, which I did, I noticed that the fans in Tampa, whose only experience with ice was in their drinks at cocktail hour, would come in. And they would come in with their tank tops and their flip-flops and their shorts. And of course, as you well know, you go into a hockey arena before the game, hours before a game, and it's got to be cold. All right? It's cold for the ice. It's cold to cold the arena, everything like that. Well, these people came in and they were turning blue by the end of the game. I had to do disclaimers the next game saying, hey, guys, next time you come to the game here, it's cold. Put on a pair of sweatpants, sneakers, socks. it'll get warm eventually, but please, we don't want anybody getting sick. All right. And I mean, that's how crazy it was there. Great story about Terry Crisp. This shows you where Tampa was in hockey at that time. Uh, so it was an exhibition game, and the Lightning were winning by a goal with under a minute to go. So what do you do? The opposing coach, you pull the goaltender. All right. They call timeout, pull the goaltender out, put the extra player on. And some guy behind Terry Crisp says, hey, Terry, get mad. You got to get mad. If they could take out their goaltender, we could take out our goaltender and put an extra man on the ice. Terry looked over to Wayne Cashman, and the guy kept saying, get on that orange guy. Get on that orange guy. Of course, the orange guy was the guy wearing the orange stripes, and he was the referee. This is what we had to do in order to indoctrinate Tampa into the great game of hockey to where you see now, where we're the hockey town of the South. We're that way. Very proud. All of my experiences, Glenn, tested me for that particular job in Tampa. How we got that, but Phil is the greatest man in this game. Man, he just said to everybody, once we get to the arena, we got you. Put Manon Rhéaume, the first woman goaltender to play an NHL professional game. Nobody knew about Tampa Bay. After that appearance by Manon Rhéaume, she was on David Letterman 2 nights later. I mean, Phil knew how to do this, and I think that's what he maybe liked about me, because I was crazy like he was, and it made for a wonderful, wonderful relationship.
Starting in the second season, home games were moved to the future Tampa Bay Rays baseball stadium, at the time called the Thunderdome. What was it like going from a nearly empty Richfield Coliseum 2 decades earlier to 26,000 screaming fans in Tampa?
So let me set this up for you. It's in a baseball stadium that was built for a team that was supposed to come from San Francisco to Tampa. That didn't work out. That fell through. They stayed in San Francisco. So here's this building in St. Petersburg built for baseball. And we're going to put a hockey rink in this. Talk about a round peg in a square peg. So they built this arena. All right. And as you see the picture now, let me just tell everybody that the most expensive seats are like what they are in the bottom bowls in all arenas. They're expensive and everything. Folks, that wasn't the best seat. Okay. The best seat really was in the mezzanine, but even better up top if you sat a couple of rows from the rail and watched this hockey game. And it was just great. And the first year that the Lightning made the playoffs, the first 2 games were in Philadelphia. We won one of them. Came back to at that time it was called the Thunderdome. And as you can see, the end arena, the mezzanine, and the upper deck were great seats. The bottom bowl seats were level with the grass. It wasn't really great. It wasn't steep. So it wasn't a great seat. Now, keep that on the air. Keep that online. If you see on the right side, all the way at the end, there's like a path there. There's the end arena and then the start of the box seats. In that arena there, people wanted to see this playoff game so badly that the Lightning put out obstructed seats behind the stands. They couldn't see what was going on. They put up 3 tremendous television sets and put fans in there to see it. All the fans wanted to do was be part of what turned out to be, at that time, the largest NHL crowd ever to watch a game. 28,000. And it went into overtime. It was, my call of that game was ridiculous. I mean, honestly, it was right up there with the Ranger Devil victory, only I think even better because of the story behind it. It was just unbelievable. All you heard, like after a high school game, if you want to go to a football game, if the team won, your team won, you had horns honking all over the place. That was Tampa that night. The news.
I want to ask you more about that game, but I want to back up to when the Lightning made the playoffs, because there's a newspaper headline I want to show you. This must have brought a smile to your face, that the sports section headline had your catchphrase.
Watching 95, Michel Petit, Aaron Broughton, 24, Brian
Bellows?
Bellows, 23.
But they used your catchphrase. You were that tied to the team that they put that in 3-inch type.
I did it in Cleveland with the word super. I did it in New Jersey with New Jersey Devils hockey. And here, and I didn't do it because it was in fashion. I did it because the fans picked up on it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would say a goal was scored, and then all of a sudden, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lightning are on the board, this and that. If it was even a better goal, I would go, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if it was a spectacular Wayne Gretzky type goal, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 stars. That's it. And all of a sudden, I started hearing people say, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I heard it in Philadelphia. I heard it. And there was one game, Glenn, where I went in and I looked across where I was doing the game, and in the corner of one of the end arenas, fans unfolded what looked like a bed sheet, big white bed sheet. And on it, it said, "Hey, Larry." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A guy came up to my broadcast booth, gave me a yes, sir t-shirt. I said, "Where'd you get this?" He said, "Oh, you can keep that. They're selling them for $8 over at the bar across the street."
And you weren't getting a cut.
No, I wasn't. But you want to know something? It's out there. It's the fans. I'm telling you, man, the fans is what drives this game. Yeah, the players, don't get me wrong. The game drives the fans, but the fans just take it several steps forward, and they do incredible, crazy things. But that's what the game does to you. So that's what the game did to me. And my parents always said, "Larry, can't you do this?" And I said, "Don't you dare blame me. You took me to my first hockey game." So,
okay.
Yeah.
I know how crazy it made you, because you told this story yourself about one interested fan, going back to that Lightning Flyers playoff series that I didn't let you finish the story. There was one interested fan who called you. She had your number because it was your wife. And she called and asked you, "Larry, you're just going crazy tonight. Are you okay?"
Yes. And she was concerned every game I did that I was okay. But again, in that Philadelphia series, the second game of the series in Philadelphia, Brian Bellows scores the game-winning goal in overtime. It was an amazing game. If we didn't lose our goaltender, Darren Poopa, at that time, I think it would have gone 7, and that's pick'em. But I always called my wife in between periods. We had a new baby at the time, and she was taking care of the kids. But I would always call her up and say, "What's going on?" When Bellows scored the goal, I spoke to her before that overtime period. I said, "How's it sounding back there?" She says, "Larry, you're off the wall. But are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Okay, well, don't worry about it, because the Lightning are going to win this game, and Brian Bellows is going to score the goal." I said, "Oh, all right." And sure enough, Brian Bellows scores the goal. Well, I'm pretty that hit me because my wife is part gypsy. I mean, she has that inclination about it. So in the next game, third game at the Meadowlands, 28,000 people, and I'm going crazy because the Lightning tie the game up. Zaminer puts the game winner in, the overtime goal to put the game in overtime, and I am profusely sweating. My shirt is wet. I'm wet. The broadcast booth is wet. My notes are spotted all over the place because it's wet. And my wife comes up to him, running into the broadcast booth. She says, "Larry, I'm watching you. Are you okay? Are you really okay?" And I'm sitting on the side while my analyst was doing the interview in between periods. I said, honey, I'm okay. I just got to gather it because this is overtime, and overtime is overtime in playoffs. We could be going for 2 days. Okay, so I got to get ready. And the crowd was buzzing. I get back on the air. My analyst says, "I saw you were talking to your wife. What's going on?" And I said, "Bobby Taylor, the chief." Um, he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Chief," and I told him about Bellows. I said, "Chief, she's told me that the Lightning are going to win this game again, and Alexander Selebrinkov." She didn't know the name, but it was Selivanov. Alexander Selivanov. Alexander Selebrinkov is going to score the goal. I said, "Selivanov?" She said, "Yeah, he's going to score." Now, of all the players on the Lightning team, how does she pick Sullivan? Although he's a good goal scorer. So I get back on the air. Chief says to me, "Hey, I saw your wife," and she said, "Da da 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 da," and I know she picked the winner the other night. Da 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 da. Who did she say this time? And I told the story, and she said, and he said, "Well, if that happens, you should take your wife to Vegas." Period starts. Sure enough, 4 or 5 minutes into overtime, Bill Holder, top of the right circle, shoots one, save in front. Alexander Selivanov right there to put it in the drink. And I went, "Selivanov, Selivanov," and I'm taking my wife to Vegas. Just like that. I got a call from the fan in Toronto the next day, some radio station in Calgary, United States. It was shown in New York. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, my technician gave the tape to the press, and that's all you heard was, "I'm taking my wife to Vegas." And that's the story. I mean, and by the way, the epilogue, the next game. Now my wife has been interviewed by a local station to pick the lottery numbers. Okay, so she says, "Larry, I know what's going to happen," and I said, let's cut out while the going's good here, okay? And she says, "Larry, they're asking me." So I said, "I'll tell you what. Pick a name, put it in an envelope, and after the game is over, I'll see what name you put in there." Next game, the Flyers won the game, and it was something like 5-1, 4-1, something like that. So I went home and I said, "Yeah." She said, I said, "Hey, what? Just curious, what name did you pick?" And I opened the envelope. It was Peter Klima, who had a pretty good shot. And Peter Klima was the name. Who scored the only goal that night for the Lightning? Peter Klima. So, I've been playing the lottery ever since, but I haven't been successful.
Larry, I have so much more I want to ask you, but that was such a great story. You got to know that's the mic drop. So you have to promise us that sometime you'll come back and tell us more about Phil Esposito and so many of the other things I didn't get to ask you. But this 90 minutes has just flown.
Well, just as a teaser for that, I will tell you the story of when Phil Esposito was general manager of the Lightning. But as we all know, Phil did television in New York, right? So I always, from time to time, would invite him to come on and do the game with me. He would love it. And all of a sudden, the one penalty, Phil, too many men on the ice, hates that. Players are lazy, coaches are ignorant, whatever. We were playing Chicago that playoff year. We were going for the playoffs. And we were winning 2-0. They come back to tie it. And third period, arm goes up by the referee. What's the call? Too many men on the ice, Tampa Bay. Oh. I look over to Phil, God's honest truth. He's got the chair up in the air, ready to throw it. So there's a lot of that. I wish I had brought the picture. I had the honor of having Phil take a picture with me with the Stanley Cup after the Lightning won that first Stanley Cup, and he's a great guy. He is something else altogether, and I learned a lot from him, and I cherish those memories.
Well, promise us you'll come back.
I promise, man. I want to talk hockey. This is a great game. It's changed so much. talk about broadcasters, press guys. You want to know about press guys? I'll tell you a Red Fisher story. Now, if you know Red Fisher,
No. This is a tease. You
a
can
team.
tell me afterward, but we'll
Yes.
tease this for your
Yes.
return appearance.
Red Fisher.
Okay.
Got a great story about Red. Great
Larry.
writer, nice historian. Interesting story.
All right. I am so glad that I was able to get you out of your shell.
Thank you. My therapist has told me long that would happen. And yes, Glenn, you have relit the flame underneath me. It's your fault, just like my parents.
When you were talking a minute ago about the playoff game and your analyst, I didn't know if you were talking about Billy Taylor, your color guy, or the kind of analyst that holds a pad while you lie down on a couch.
No, that's Bobby Taylor. And Bobby was the
Bobby.
backup goalie to Bernie Perrant, in the Philadelphia Broad Street Bully days and the championship days, and worked in Philadelphia. And Bobby, he was a goaltender. He's a member of the Goaltenders Association. He's going to talk about goaltenders. But that particular day was just unbelievable. But every guy that I did, by the way, for the Lightning, you know how many color men I had?
I do.
What?
It was a revolving door. 49.
49 different color guys, including me, because I did games alone. Tell you next time about a game I did up in Montreal where I had the French broadcasters looking at me like, who was that? Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Well, an hour and a half ago, people may not have known who Larry Hirsch is, but they know who he is now, and we're very glad that you agreed to spend the time sharing your stories. We very, very much appreciate it. Thank you, Larry.
A lot more where that came from, guys, and it'll be my pleasure and honor to grace your airways again and just try to bring, as I hopefully did tonight. I didn't, thank you for echoing some of those play-by-play calls.
Yeah.
I echoed a lot of craziness, but my broadcast I was very proud of, and really gave the fans what they wanted, and learned from a lot of great people, put it all together, and it all spells, I love you, hockey. Join me.
There's a lot of people who could learn from you too,
Yeah,
Larry.
Well,
But for now, we'll say goodnight and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
let's go Kraken. Go Kraken. Ron France job.
We'll see you next time on Hockey Time
My
Machine.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.